Say yes to new beginnings.
Yes.
Say yes to new standards of excellence.
Yes.
Say yes to engaging reportage with a difference.
Yes.
Introducing Yes International Magazine. The time to say yes to your dreams and aspirations is here.
Our guest today is my friend, my brother, one of the nicest souls that I've come across. An activist with a beautiful heart. Chief Festus Keyamo, one of Nigeria's legal giants. I lack words to describe him, but he has been so nice to me ever since our paths crossed. He's currently one of the ministers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, barrister lawyer, how is life as a minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Well, it's a new experience.
Okay.
Friends from the private sector from which I came. The whole country knew my development as a young lawyer, a senior advocate. The path I had already started for myself. So over the years, I have been used to doing things my own way, at my own time, and in my own at my own pace. But the experience where you have to also fit into a bureaucracy, because government is a bureaucracy. So for me, it's an experience, but I have settled in very well because it's about here now, and I've settled in very well.
Wow. Now, what was the first thing you did on assumption of office? The first thing you did?
Well, if you are talking of the first official thing, because when you say the first thing I did, it's a bit vague. But maybe the first official thing I did, maybe a public function, I think was to hold a meeting, one of the parastatals under our ministry at that time. I think that's, although to hold a meeting with the directors and to get a briefing from the, because once you resume as a minister, the first thing they do is for all the different departments to brief you. And they must bring you up as to what happens in each department and the current issues in those departments. So I think the first thing I did was to receive briefing from the directors of at that time, which is of the Niger Delta affairs.
All right. Now, so far, what would you describe as your greatest achievement? I know that you still have some time to go, but I mean, so far, what would you describe as your greatest achievement of all the things that you have done so far?
Well, this is not a time for total stock taking. We are still on board. We have spent some time, yes. However, maybe at the midterm, we can take a holistic stock taking. But we can attempt to do some now. For instance, I was moved from the Niger Delta Ministry to the Ministry of Labor and Employment, and I was put in charge of duties. What he did was that he gave all the ministers their schedule of duties. So there's no minister that does not have his own clear-cut schedule of duties. Even where you have a minister and a minister of state in ministry, both of them have their different assignments given to them by Mr. President. So in respect of the duties given to me, I have months. I have tried to see whether I can expand beyond the normal bureaucracy, especially things that do not fit in with my own philosophy. So I have tried that. Those are not the things we can put in the public space now. But I've tried to do things a bit differently so that we can achieve more. One of the special programs put in my care, which is special public works program, the program I have designed, planned it, and we have flagged it off right now. And I'm sure you have seen the flag off in the entire part of the country of the special public works program that's under my care, which is the 1,000 menial jobs in all the local government in the country. I've also within that program to ensure that I make it available to as many Nigerians as possible. And so I have not designed it in a way to close the door against people who are in those kind of jobs. It's not a job for graduates or the middle class. It's a job for the very, very poor. That is why you have very few stipends, small stipends going to them at the end of the month. So instead of restricting to a certain class of persons or restricting to a certain class of persons dictating who should get what under the program, I have ensured that it's available to as many Nigerians as possible.
Interesting. Now, having worked closely with President Muhammadu Buhari for some time, what kind of person is he really?
Well, let me say this, that I have been privileged all my life, and I think nobody shares that privilege with me. So I've been mentored by two of the strongest characters this country has produced in the last 50, 60 or 70 years. In terms of their passion against corruption, to fight corruption, their passion for good governance, and the very stern qualities they come with, and that the country acknowledges them for that. And that is President Muhammadu Buhari and Chief Gani Fahimi. Everybody knew that Gani Fahimi brought me up. He trained me as a lawyer and also as a young person, as a young man. And then, of course, I fall into the hands of President Muhammadu Buhari to also sharpen my skills in governance. So I don't think anybody shares that privilege with me in this country. I've been mentored by two of the perhaps under the sun. And so I want to say very clearly that President Muhammadu Buhari is one person that grossly misunderstood perhaps by the elites and the opposition. You discover that in the last election, something that has never happened in the entire country, in the history of this country, happened. Let me tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari as president without the endorsement of the major and critical in this country. In fact, all of them rejected the last article. All the so-called cultural, political associations, cultural associations, call them whoever, Middle Belt, Afenifere, Ohanese, all of them, Arewa, all of them. Those so-called people who wear big clothes, big beard and big everything, and they think that they are speaking for the masses of this country. Some of them who come and speak big grammar, eat from government, and pretend to be speaking on behalf of their people. President Muhammadu Buhari got elected without their endorsements. In the past, what presidents do, or any president, they go and beg for their endorsements, and they take money from them. Let us say it the way it is, because the masses don't know what happens. People think that they endorse people on grounds of principle. They don't. They collect money from their money, and do so-called endorsement that they are endorsing on behalf of their cultural associations and political. It's a lie. They collect money, I mean. So it's a man who cannot, for any reason, even in the quest for the highest political office in the land, like you have seen, kowtow to any interests. We may not see this type of person come our way again for generations to come. We may not. Qualities with which he made are very stern qualities. He's a man of high principles, unbendable principles. And I have come to learn so much from his qualities. He's your quintessential eloquent orator. And we are not looking for a president who is an orator, who is a motivational speaker. We are not. We are bringing back the 10 days against my head. You are bringing me back to the campaign again of 2019. We're not looking for another. We are looking for somebody with 10 qualities. Somebody, contrary to what people say, is that's completely detribalized. Completely. This toga they are hanging around his neck is one of the most unfortunate lie I've ever seen in the history of this country. I am from the South. I supported him in 2015 against my kinsman, against President Jonathan. From the South, South. I did support him on ground principle. Not because I was promised anything, and I did not get anything in 2015, and I moved on, and I continue to support the regime. The administration.
Interesting.
Most of the noise you hear about President Muhammadu Buhari are the noise of frustrated and angry politicians who have lost out in the power game.
All right. All right. Now, how did Festus Keyamo SAN even become a minister? How did it happen?
Well, you are here. You are witnesses to. All of you are witnesses to everything. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened though. I was in my office, JJ, as a senior advocate, right? My briefs when they called me to be part of the major campaign, to spearhead the campaign. They called me to spearhead the communications department in the campaign. I was writing my brief, and then once you have invitation from a sitting president and a ruling party and my party to play that kind of pivotal role, it's very difficult to turn it down. And I wanted to showcase the achievements of the administration. After that, you remember a day after the election results were announced, I was also part of the national returning officers. I went to the collation center to represent the president in the national collation center. And after that day, if you remember, the next day, everybody saw it. I said the job was done. I put on my wig and gown. I was back to the courts. I wore my wig myself. I went back to court the very next day. I wasn't waiting for anything. I wasn't looking for anything. But the president, in his wisdom, felt, look, I should come and assist in the administration. And so here I find myself as minister.
What an interesting story. Yeah. Now, I would like to find out from you. At the end of your tenure as a minister, are you going to continue in politics, or you'll be returning to your legal practice?
Tomorrow is God's own. Today is my own. It's my plan. It is God's own. You know, so like the pastors say, I'm going to be listening to the voice of God. I've not heard the voice.
We're waiting to hear the call.
I also hear the voice. And maybe I'll begin to hear the noise.
All right. Yes. All right. Now, what do you miss these days, about not going to court and practicing law?
It's plenty of torture for me. For the last nearly 30 years, it has been in and out of the courts every day. And that has been my passion, advocating one cause or the other. And instead of defending claims, or I'm filing cases against governments, left, right, and center, against people who I think are oppressing the system. So all my life, I've been very passionate about advocating for good governance. So not going to court now on a daily basis is a real torture for me. I can't wait to get back. I'm sure you are, the country, followed all the cases I did, hundreds and hundreds of public interest cases. You know, one of such is the issue of the service chiefs that have just guided government for the approval of the National Assembly. You know, those were cases I took charge on my own, you know, in order to guide our democracy and reshape our democracy. I've done hundreds like that. So I miss that. But then what I've done now is to advocate from within. It's a different strategy. I laugh when I hear people say that Keyamo has abandoned the principles he stood for and what he had always known how to do. And I laugh. It's just pure ignorance, pure short-sightedness. At times, what you spend 10 years fighting for outside government and screaming for government to hear you can achieve in 10 minutes in government. You can achieve in 10 minutes. And then I also laugh when I hear people say that Keyamo is no longer shouting and screaming and abusing government and everybody. It's also myopia on their part. Because you see, the one thing you shout when you're outside government is that you want government to hear you. That's why you shout. But when you are in government, you're shouting at yourself. You can't shout at yourself, you speak to yourselves. Because you can knock on the doors of the president. You can knock on the doors of the president. So, when you're outside, you are shouting because you want those in the room to hear you. Those inside the room to hear you from the outside. But now you are in the room. Why are you shouting?
All right. Now, how has your chambers, been running in your absence?
Well, it's such a good thing. What I did was that long before my appointment, even long before I became a senior advocate, I designed my chambers. I think God guided me so much that I designed my chambers, all the branches of my chambers, to run in such a way that it is completely, removed from my minute-to-minute supervision. I designed my chambers in such a way to run on autopilot. I built this practice over the years, and I built it to a standard where I became a senior advocate. I have a big chambers in Lagos. I mean, everybody knows that place, like a marketplace for the public. I built, at the age of early 30s, I built a 3-floor chambers. I had a vision, I built a 3-floor chambers. I built one in Warri, and I built one in Abuja. All of those my personal properties. All my personal properties. With an array of lawyers, secretaries, and all that. I have about, even as a then, if I have 20-something, the lawyers, another 40-something support staff, drivers, secretaries, librarians, dispatch clerks, cleaners, speakers, everything. And so it was running autopilot because of the very well-equipped libraries we have and the very senior lawyers we have. There are many lawyers who have been with me for nearly 20 years, 15 years. They are there running the chambers more than even myself. So I thank God for giving me that foresight and wisdom to set up the chambers like that. So they are hardly missing my absence, being in government. But once in a while, I peep as to what is going on in the chambers, and I still receive the alerts.
I like that.
The alerts.
All right. Now, to have a taste of success in what one is doing, what is the best way to go about it? If you're into something and you intend to have a taste of success in that business or in that profession, what are you expected to do?
Well, if you talk about some professional competence and what to do, I will hazard some advice. But many people will come and tell you that it is strictly by those advice that you can rise to the very top. Of course, the normal things like hard work, integrity, they are there. Of course, they are there. Hard work, integrity, competence, and full dedication to duty, those things are there. But to be successful in life generally, there's always a God factor. The Bible says, I think in Ecclesiastes chapter 11, is it Ephesians? 9, 11, 9 or so, that the swift do not win the race, not the mighty. You know, so there's always a God factor. And anybody who does not attribute success to God is virtually undermining the power and the influence, overall, you know, influence of God in our lives. So I think at the end of the day, we are not. You are being a very successful, you know, journalist, subcell journalist, but you're the most intelligent, not the most hardworking, not the most. You know, it's just a God factor when God favors you. And so, like people say, we all give the glory. We give all the glory to God.
All right. I need you to take us through a step. What and what did Barrister Festus Keyamo, SAN, do to get to where he is today? Take us through that step so that maybe some lawyers who are looking up to you, who are, you know, people who intend going to the universities to study law, what must they do to get to where you are today?
One, like I said, apart from the God factor, let's talk about the human effort. The human effort is one. You must be hard working. You must dedicate yourself to your job. There's no doubt about that. That's it. The second one is that deal with people with a level of integrity. Always come back and they always be your testimonial out there. Because let me tell you, when you're a private practitioner or in private business, you cannot be your own testimonial. It's people you represent, people you work for, and people who work with you that are testimonials. Deal with them with a level of integrity. They will always tell people else, some other people, and they'll come back to you. The third one is that you be focused. Cut off all the irrelevancies in your life. Especially at the earlier part of your life. If you get it wrong at the earlier part of your life, you get it wrong forever. It's important. The foundational stage, Azu, is the key. And what I mean by that, cut your coat according to your cloth at the early part of your life. Don't try to jump above your means. No, don't. That's the mistake many young men make. Be focused. Don't have too much of a taste you cannot manage in all parts of life. Don't ever. I underline what I'm saying. This third point. Don't. Learn to put one block on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, and little by little. Don't carry 50 blocks at the same time. You want to build at the same time. No, you cannot do that. It's not possible. You will crash. You will crash. Put one block at a time.
Yes, at a time. Wow. I love that. Now,
and then you will be surprised that when you put one block at a time, you will build steadily and surely, and you can never crash because you are doing it one at a time. When you put one block at a time, before you step on that block you are put, you make sure it is solid. Then you move to the next block. Make sure it is solid. Move to the next one.
I like that.
So that even if you have to make a mistake, you will not crash to the ground. It's only the last block you put that will crash. And you will not you only crash to the last most solid block that you put. But when you put 50 at the same time and they crumble, you are back to square one. You are crashing to the ground. And it leads to depression. And at times suicide. Yes.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Now, did you ever envisage that you get to this height in life? Did you ever have that dream?
First of all, I had the confidence I could go all the way, but I did not. I wasn't desperate about it. So don't make the mistake about inordinate ambition and hope and self-assurance. There's a difference between that, inordinate ambition and self-assuredness. Have your self-assuredness that, look, I am fit, competent, I know what I'm doing, I can go all the way, but I'm not desperate about it. I leave the rest in the hands of God, because sickness can bring you down, accidents can bring you down, ill luck can bring you down, all kinds of things. Don't be desperate about it. But I have a self-assuredness. I'll tell you a small joke about self-assuredness. When I was a student, I had all the big names. I had stories about all the big name lawyers, how they perform in court and all that. When I was a student, I was the best advocate of my sex, not only my school, but the whole nation. I took the prize of the best advocate national competition in final year against all the 19 faculty in the country at that time. Now, with that self-assuredness, I started my practice. But I was hearing names. I won't mention them, big names, SAS, that you should meet them in court. So the first few weeks I went to court. I met these lawyers in court and I heard them speak. And like this where the joke comes in. I was telling myself inside. I didn't dare say it. I said, but I can do as well as this now. How about? He's talking in court. I can do better than this now. I said, God, let my time come. They will hear me better than. So I was pumping myself up. I was assuring myself that you can do it. So get ready. Yeah. Mentally, you get ready. Psychologically, get ready. Be self-assured, but don't be ambitious. Don't try and pull down elders in order to climb. No, take your enter the queue. Just enter the queue. Be self-assured. When it's time, they'll say, Azu, it's your turn. Step forward.
I like that. Now, yes, at 51, you will agree with us that God has been nice to you. What more do you want from God?
Good health, nothing more. I don't want money. If it comes, fine. I'll just pick it up if it comes. But good health, long life. And when I say long life, not with bad health, like I said, with a functioning body. You know what? Everywhere must be very well. Because there's no point having long life without so good health and body.
Okay. Now, a whole lot of people, especially the young ones, look up to you. What advice would you give to them? I mean, you should also be one of the youngest members of this cabinet, one of the youngest members as far as this cabinet. Yes, so all the other younger ones who are coming up, who look up to you, what advice would you give to them?
Well, I'll just tell them nothing more than the fact that they should have implicit faith in God, and at the same time must go pari passu with hard work, integrity, and patience. Enter the queue. Be patient. Work hard. Your time will come. We are all operating within our time zones. Obama got president at 46 or 47. Obama at 47. At 53, he was out, of 54. He was out of the White House, virtually bored about life, because he had achieved everything. And then Joe Biden has become president at 76, after trying over and over all his years. We're all living within our time zone. We are all living, just created different times for us to achieve what we have to achieve. At the end of the day, it is not what I've achieved now that matters. It's what I achieved before God calls me at the end of the day. So what somebody achieves at something or 30-something, and I achieve at 70-something, by the time they write both of our histories, if, for example, he's to become president of Nigeria, the governor of a state, they will say, ex-governor when he was alive. This one is ex-governor when he was alive. Simple. Nobody will remember that. They won't give you a trophy that ex-governor at a young age, ex-governor as an old age. No, you're all ex-governors, or you're all ex-presidents. Look at President Buhari. His own example is an example too in patience and God's own guide. After they overthrew him in 1985, he kept working hard. He kept working hard. He kept working hard to come back. This time by democratic means. By the time it was time for God to call him to step forward, he stepped forward and became president. And all those who overthrew him, they were witnesses and they were alive to see him become what they feared he would never become. And what they tried to take away from him, God finally gave it to him in a better way, which was being a democratically elected president. God gave it to him. So that's how we should.
I will take 2 more questions so that I can free you. I know you're a very busy man.
Just for you to tell me you are sending interview.
Yes, 2 more questions.
Interview.
Okay. Yes. Other than President Muhammadu Buhari and Chief Ganifa Ayemi, who are the other people who have also impacted your life?
Well, my father, no other person but my father. And I'll say that over and over and again. And in fact, he's way ahead of these individuals you mentioned. He's way ahead of the president. My father is way miles ahead of others. And the other 2 come second and third. Because my father shaped me, brought me up. He was passionate about my education. My father brainwashed me, indoctrinated me in the ways of God and the way I should follow, the way I should live my life. I didn't know when I was 14, 15, I didn't know what my father was doing at that time, but now I realize it. He would just say, look, let's go out together, just me and him as his first son. But there were 2 girls ahead of me and the 7 children on the whole. But at that time, he would just say, look, he wanted 2 of us to just go out together, either to his workplace or just drive around town. And I wondered then what he was doing, because he would just be driving at times aimlessly. We would go to visit somebody or just drive around the town. And during those trips around town, my father was telling very intimate things. My father was talking what I should do about how to live my life by education. He was telling me what I should do when I first started making money, how I should save, how I should invest, he was telling me about integrity, how I should live my life, how I should not maltreat people. He was telling me as if he was gisting with me, but I didn't know he was brainwashing me. He was guiding me. He was teaching me how to live my life. But I took it like it was an ordinary gist. He was just gisting me. But now looking back years later, I knew he was actually indoctrinating me, as his son. And I look back and I give all the glory to him and to God.
Interesting. Now, is activism still in the equation for Festus Keyamo SAN, or you're done with that, especially now that you're in government? When you step out of government, will you still be involved or engaged in activism, or you have come to the end of your activism journey, so to say?
Well, first of all, you see, this is a question I've always wanted to answer, and I've seen even in your question now, you have even gotten it wrong, because you assume activism is about abusing government, being out of government, going on protest, smashing everything on the way when you're on protest, and generally abusing everybody in government. That is activism for many people, and that is wrong. It's not activism. What I am doing now is that I've even moved to gear 5 of activism. I'm even the better activist right now. Activism is about using any position you see to fight for the interests of the common man. That's activism. That's my definition. Anyway, using your position and any God-given talent or gift you have to help the common man, downtrodden. Being in government and doing what is right in government is the greatest activism under the sun. And so what I am doing now is that I have just changed a bit of strategy, but I have moved on to the higher level of activism now. And I'm fighting from within. I am proposing every week, I'm pushing policies, I'm making arguments at the Federal Executive Council to support the ordinary person. Things that will never have had the opportunity to tell the president to his face. But every day, every week in the Federal Executive Council, when memos are brought, I am always arguing, supporting or rejecting those memos based on what I think is the interest of the common man. That, I think, is the greatest activism, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Having been tutored, by the late Chief Ganifa Ayemi, what would you say was the greatest lesson that he taught to you or that you learned from him?
Channel all your energies, all your passion to do what you think is right and not what the crowd is shouting is right. Do what is right, even when everybody says it's wrong. That is all. Bye-bye.
All right.